One fan base, one city, one team brings us all together. The Cleveland Browns. If you're a Browns fan, this podcast is for you. Welcome to Down with the Browns.
And welcome back to another episode of Down with the Browns. What's up, man?
Let's go, baby! Let's go! Bro, I'm in the new crib. I'm in the new crib.
You're in the new
crib right now. We're lit.
Yeah.
We're lit. We're feeling good. We're feeling good. So, how was the cruise? How was the cruise, bro? You just got back from the cruise. How was the cruise?
It was electric. Really sad to see me leaving from the 90-degree weather that I was chilling in to come back to snow. Yeah, that was horrible. Didn't like that a bit. But, we're back. Sad to say I had to watch that playoff loss on the way back from it. So did not end the best way, but we're here.
No, we're here. We're here. I mean, we're in the off season, live from Cancun. As you can tell by my name, we got kicked off. We got Christian. The bang energy. Are we trying? Is it a bang?
This is a nos.
Bro, old school nos, and you're gonna shotgun that? Bro.
Forgot how nasty those things were.
That's nasty, bro. That's nasty.
But
we're lit. But we're lit, though.
We're lit.
I guess we're lit. Sure. I guess we're that lit.
We're lit. Yeah.
But it's been a struggle, man. It's been a struggle watching these playoff teams. At the same time, though, we kind of talked about it last time I was on the pod, really. We kind of talked about the expectations, really, of the Cleveland Browns, the real expectations we had, especially when Nick Chubb went down and when Deshaun Watson went down. Like, we talked about the expectations. I just wanted to get to the playoffs, and I know people are going to be upset. There's people were in my mentions about saying, oh, what do you mean the Browns? I tweeted out, I said the Browns, I'm still proud of my boys either way. People were like, oh, you're so proud of that. You're proud of this. Yes. You've seen all the injuries we had? Yes, I'm proud of this football team. What do you mean? What do you mean? Am I not proud? Am I not supposed to be proud of the Cleveland Browns without their quarterback, without their starting running back, a bunch of offensive linemen? I mean, it is insane. James, you're so right. Those nods are disgusting. Of course, I'm proud of my boys. We wanted to get to the playoffs. We got to the playoffs. I'm feeling pretty good.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I set the expectation before the season with any injury, like no injuries being accounted for, like 11-6. So,
right.
I mean, we met expectation for me. So, I mean, I'm pretty hyped about it, and I'll go off.
So I haven't been on the pod in a couple of weeks. Obviously, we're moving. We just got moved into the last house, into the house last week. We settled on Tuesday. So I don't have my room set up where I'm going to do the pod. So I'm in the kitchen right now. I completely agree, James. Definitely happy with the season. I do want to start off by saying, so I haven't been able to say this since we got the playoff loss, but Cleveland Browns, I am proud of you. There's some fans out there that aren't proud, that aren't happy. For some reason, they thought that we really – it might be nice. It would have been nice to make a nice little playoff run. But there's some fans who actually believe that we were going to go to the Super Bowl. But that's your problem in and of itself. Okay? Yeah. It was very fun to say Super Bowl, Super Browns. It was great. It was fantastic.
It's always fun to say that, man. Like,
it's always fun to say that.
You just had you had the glimpse of hope. I mean, you had Joe Flacco. Like, I mean, he's made that run before, I mean, you started seeing the stats that he was like second all time in row playoff wins. And you're like, okay, this boy's been balling, like 3 consecutive 300+ yard games. The offense is humming because that's what everybody was really worried about.
Right.
But, they come out, defense just lays a fat egg. And,
it doesn't. It doesn't help when you had. It all went downhill with that non-PI call on David Njoku, right? I mean, it went downhill from there. It really did. But at the same time, I still feel personally that I don't know why my lights are flickering in here, but I still feel personally that I was a little optimistic just because it was the Texans, but then I thought to myself, we haven't played the C.J. Stroud-led Texans. But I was like, we beat them so bad in Houston. Is it really that going to be that big of a difference? It was a big difference. It was a big difference.
Well, it wasn't only just him either. I mean, you had Will Anderson Jr. come back.
Will Anderson Jr. was also there. That's correct.
Yeah, and then you also had, D'Amico Ryans. He got to see Joe Flacco again. So, they were back at the drawing board being like, hey, look at this, key in on this. Because a lot of the stuff, a lot of it's just kind of basic offense, and, they're at home. They weren't even projected to even make the playoffs. Like, everybody was talking. I remember I was even talking. I was like, you can about chuck that game against the Texans up as a W because they're going to suck. Because, usually teams with a good, a rookie quarterback, even if they are good, they're not going to be that. They're not going to be that. They're not going to go in and beat the number one defense at home 45-14,
No, listen, they're going to be a problem next season. They're going to be a problem next season, absolutely. But at the same time, I'm looking at this roster. Now, if you were to say that we had a healthy Nick Chubb and a healthy Deshaun Watson, which, we can get into this argument all day, every single day. I think sometimes we do it just to have something to talk about, barbershop talk. Deshaun Watson we would have had the exact same record, or maybe even a better record if Deshaun Watson was playing football. It's so, I don't even want to have the conversation because I feel like it's tiresome. Personally, for me, there might be people who disagree. Fine, you can put it in the comment section. I do want to hear your points. But some of the people who've been saying it just haven't liked Deshaun Watson the entire time. So I really don't want to listen to what you're saying if you're just going to be that kind of closed-minded to think that a 5-1 Deshaun, a healthy Deshaun with a healthy Nick Chubb, we weren't going to take us further. I don't know. It's Joe Flacco honestly turned the ball over so much.
Yeah, he really did have a big turnover problem. For about every 3 touchdowns he's thrown, he's at least thrown a pick. I think Watson cleans that up just a tad bit. I'm not going to say he was going to be perfect, but it's just you had that glimpse, man. Watson finally had that, everybody, the stretch that the Browns fans were waiting for since we got him. He had that against the Ravens, and then that Wednesday hit and just sucked the life out of everybody. Going into Pittsburgh or going into the game versus Pittsburgh at home. Yeah. And it killed everybody, man.
It was super unfortunate. James, I do want to touch on really quickly. I love Kareem Hunt. I do. I would personally like him back. I would like Nick Chubb back. I think the Jerome Ford experience, it was nice, but at the same time, it was nice for what it was, but I don't want him on the team next year personally. Yeah. I think we need to draft somebody else. I think we need to draft somebody else. I think we have one more good year of Chunt, to be honest with you, that combination of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. But Kareem Hunt could probably be, that kind of third and short kind of guy. But at the same time, it's there's just so much to be left on the table because the offensive line was banged up as well. It's just we were, I don't know. I'm not going to say the word lucky, but that's why Kevin Stefanski is going to be coach of the year because there were just so many holes on the team because of injuries. And it's hard. Who do you bring back? Who do you not bring back? I don't know. What do you think about Kareem Hunt and being back with Nick Chubb next season?
It's not happening next year. I think we draft one. I think if anything, we'll run it back with the Ford and Chubb, and then add another guy. I just don't think that Hunt will be back because in reality, he wouldn't have been playing on the Browns if Chubb's healthy the whole year.
True.
Yeah.
True. That's a good point.
But there's going to be some brand new faces in the coaching staff for the Browns. But before we get into that, speaking of brand new, just look at these brand new tees that me and Manny got. Straight from Homage. I've got the Angry Runs David Njoku t-shirt on. It's just straight fire. Manny's got, is that the Brownie? Brownie the Elf. You can't go wrong there. We've got the links to the Homage website in the live stream, so go check that out. Great website and great tees. If you want to rock the Browns, Cavs, guards, whatever you want to rock, man, they got it all. So go check out Homage. But speaking of the new additions to the offensive staff for the Browns, we've brought in 3 new coaches so far. Ken Dorsey as OC, Deuce Staley as running back, and then Tommy Rees as tight end coach. So, what do you think about the Ken Dorsey hire, which was announced during the toward the end of the Ravens collapse versus the Chiefs last night? What do you think about that, man?
I think I had to think about this for a second because
Let's go.
as the avid fan, as a fan of football, the first thing you think about when you hire their OC, you think about who the team that they previously were on was, and then you think about their starting quarterback. And so everybody's mind went to Josh Allen, and they're like, "Oh, this guy got fired from the Bills mid-season, so he must be really bad. Like, what are your ideas?" Like, okay, well, first and foremost, Josh Allen is a turnover machine, number one. And number two, if Josh Allen doesn't want to run a play, Josh Allen's not going to run that play. But we've seen in the past, the Bills have gone only so far. So you either take the reins away from Josh Allen or you give them to Ken Dorsey. So, but at the same time, is Ken Dorsey Deshaun had to have a say in this, I would imagine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you look at it, I mean, there's somebody tweeted earlier. I just screenshot it. I don't remember who tweeted it. So props out to you, whoever did tweet that. Ken Dorsey in his 10 games with the Bills this year, points per drive, it was 2.45. Yards per play was 6. Success rate was 48.1%. Pass success rate was 52.3. Rush was 46.1. EPA drive was 0.52. EPA drop back was 0.14. Turnover rate was 17.3%. Under Joe Brady in those 7 games, he had points per drive was 2.27. Yards per play was 5.4. Success rate was 43.7. Pass success rate was 45.6. Rush success rate was 44.5. EPA drive was 0.29. EPA drop back was 0.11. Turnover rate was 11.7. So the biggest thing in those two that I noticed was the turnover rate went down 6%. But everything else, I mean, everything went down, like points per drive, yards, success rate, like everything went down for the Bills after Ken Dorsey left.
Right.
Like, I mean, I get it. Like, you know, Joe Brady comes in, you know, they're hyped up. But if you look at the stats, their defense started playing a little better in those last 7 games too, because they're like, we got to tighten up, boys. Like, we're supposed to be contending for the AFC. So the defense started playing better for the Bills, and they made that run. But Josh Allen also wasn't turning the ball over as much.
That's true. But I guess. So, are you high on Ken Dorsey?
I think I'm not upset with the hire. I'll say that. I did not want Brian Johnson. I did not want him in Cleveland. I'm just glad it's not him. I was fine with Ken Dorsey. I actually like the hire because I feel like we'll be able to do some stuff, because last year nobody was complaining about the Bills offense when they were second-ranked offense in the league under Ken Dorsey.
Sure.
So, I mean, I think it was just like one of them scapegoat moves. I'm going to be honest.
Right. And where you just kind of fire somebody.
Yeah. Like, you're just like, okay, the team sucks right now. We're going to have to fire somebody. And he's just the odd man out, you know?
And I agree. I agreed to that. I think my hesitancy is I don't know if Kevin Stefanski is going to give up play calling to whoever the OC was. I think the only thing potentially I think the reason why we didn't sign a Kellen Moore is because Kevin Stefanski didn't want to give up total control of the offensive play calling.
Yeah.
And I think with Kellen Moore, he really wanted to have full control. And if that's the case, then it seems as though at least Kevin Stefanski still might call some plays with Ken Dorsey, or they might collaborate together heavily than would have. I think James, you're definitely correct. That's a great thing to point out that Stephon Diggs, stats went down drastically once Dorsey left. I think Dorsey was doing the best he possibly could to get Stephon Diggs, one of their best players on offense, potentially a second best player if you're counting Josh Allen as the first.
Yeah.
Open, and I think that's. I don't know. I just feel as though with Amari Cooper there, I think Elijah Moore is going to be back. I think there's going to be a free agent wide receiver. I think it's a pipe dream. I love the pipe dream of T. Higgins, but it's probably, I would love also a Calvin Ridley. I would really love that. That would be amazing.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You saw Deshaun Watson talk about T. Higgins and potentially coming over here. I think it's fun, spectate. I think we went into so many off seasons now talking about bringing in a guy and we don't get him. Or, you know what I mean? It's fun to think about, but we just don't get him. So,
well, do you possibly think that like the Ken Dorsey hire might be able to bring us in a guy like Gabe Davis free agency?
I think Gabe Davis is a very strong possibility. I think the splashes that we've had in the past few years, I think Amari Cooper, I think of Amari Cooper and I think of Deshaun Watson as the two potentially biggest splashes that we've had in free agency, bringing in a guy who we've really, really, and both of those two were unexpected, believe it or not, right? I mean, to the last second, it was Deshaun Watson we didn't really know. And then Amari Cooper really kind of came out of nowhere, truthfully. So if we bring in a guy, it'll probably be like a Gabe Davis who we really wanted. We all kind of wanted to trade for Elijah Moore, but he's not a huge splash name. We were excited when we got Elijah Moore. Zanarius Smith was a surprise. I mean, in the middle of the night. So it's like,
bro, it's like I was cutting grass when that trade went through. I was sitting on the lawnmower, just chilling.
It was the craziest thing. So what I mean by now, I'm almost used to it being in the Andrew Berry regime, that any moves that are going to be made this offseason are all the moves that we don't talk about. So maybe we should talk about.
Well, it's the guys that you think you're going to get like the year before. So it's always like a year. I feel like it's delayed. Like we were talking real big. We were talking real big on Z last year when he's a free agent.
True. Yes.
And then Elijah Moore was the year before.
Yes.
So,
well, and another name that I think that we could possibly get in, Chase Young. I would look out for Chase Young because the 49ers are reportedly trying to bench him for the Super Bowl. So I don't know how much because of him just taking plays off left and right. I don't know. Is he another Jadeveon Clowney?
Yeah,
but we saw Jadeveon Clowney had a crazy year.
I don't know, man. I get it. Everybody loves him just because he went to Ohio State, but
right.
I'm just not sold on it, man. 2 years ago, you could have got me signed up on that, but I'm not. I don't feel like he'd be asking probably 15 to 20 million a year. I just don't think he'd be worth
stupid amount of money for the hype.
I just don't think it'd be worth it.
And truthfully, if I'm a GM, just one quick thought on Chase Young. If I'm a GM, I'm like, you went to a defense with Javon Hargrave and Nick Bosa on the line with Fred Warner behind you, and you mean to tell me you were taking plays off? Like, no one should even be paying attention to you, truthfully.
Yeah,
with all those studs and Greenlaw, Dre Greenlaw on defense, like no one should even be paying to you. You should be one-on-one winning those one-on-one matchups. So the fact that I'm hearing that he's taking plays off and he's not doing exactly what he was supposed to be doing when he got there. He better lower his price, but he's going to be another Jadeveon Clowney asking for a big paycheck for a splash. So
yeah, I'm not really high on him. I'm fine with bringing back Z and probably getting another kind of like an Okoronkwo signing just so we have more depth just in case an injury does happen. But I feel like we need to attack the D tackle position again. I say we bring back Mo Hurst. I think we need to get another dude though. Get another dude that can play not every down, but like a good 60% of downs, like a good pass rushing and like a primary pass rusher. One of them guys where you could throw 3D tackles in him, and if somebody's going to hurry up, you can keep him on the field.
Right.
Like not like a Dalvin Tomlinson size guy, like a little thinner, more like a Mo Hurst size guy, but get like that dude. You know what I mean?
It would be very helpful. I think that would be extremely helpful. I would love, first and foremost, we really would need to keep this defensive group together. I mean, it wasn't really there. I mean, the traveling on the road is the problem. I don't know if they showed up on the road. I don't know where that comes from. You know what I mean? Is that personnel? What's good, Brett? Is that personnel though? What's the problem with the defense on the road?
Dude, I think it's just lack of accountability. I think, it has to be something like, because the difference in the road and being at home is like when you're playing at home, you're usually at the comfort of your apartment or your house. And then when you're on the road, you're with the boys and you're getting
Right.
away from everything. So you think it might be just like they're letting the guys go out too late on the road, maybe like go hit the town wherever they're at, maybe hitting the poker tables a little too long. Like I'm just speculating. No,
right,
heat behind that. Like, so.
Well, but I think you have a point there. I think if we can get Jim Schwartz to come back next year, I believe that a second year kind of stint with this defense and a couple more splash play, like key pieces would help out tremendously. The safety room showed up big time. Obviously, Ronnie Hickman showed up big time. I love myself Ronnie Hickman on a rookie deal, so we got him for the cheap. Grant Delpit, we extended. I love Grant Delpit. I like the defense.
Facts,
MC,
listen.
That's a very good point. Christian, you've been on this hill. Can you talk to that a little bit? About
so I mean, during the season, you kind of get that feeling, kind of the same feeling about DPJ going into the year. If he's not gone by the start of the season, I think he's definitely dealt at the deadline. Like, they're not going to pay him. You're not going to pay three corners because I think Andrew Berry's on the same train. Like, you would rather give the money you would give to Greg Newsome to Martin Emerson.
Right.
Because, like, if you can lock up Martin Emerson and Denzel Ward at the same time and have them for 4 to 5 years just together, that's a dynamic duo right there. So I think that we could probably package him in a trade for either some picks or maybe even a wide receiver.
I would love a wide receiver. I would personally love a wide receiver. The problem is I don't really want to trade Greg Newsome. Reason being is because Denzel Ward barely plays for the Cleveland Browns. Is he even really on the roster? I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop it.
But hear me out. Hear me out, bro. Hear me out. Andrew Berry drafting a wide receiver is dog poop. Horrible. It's like a pothole in the middle of the road. He should try to avoid it.
He is.
So him drafting.
He's good at corners. I mean, he was a cornerback. He was in the secondary himself.
Like,
so
Cam Mitchell. Cam Mitchell in the
Cam
fifth?
Mitchell is good. The Cam Mitchell is good.
Martin Emerson in the third.
Yeah. That's a good point.
the dude's solid at finding DBs. So I would much rather him have to address the DB position because
KFC, do you like that though? Because I'm telling you, when Denzel Ward was out, at least we all said we had Greg Newsome there, and then you had Martin Emerson, who was we thought was quarterback 3 from heaven.
Did you not watch the Denver Broncos game?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
Okay. Did you watch the Texans game?
Yeah, but there was no John Mechie, and there was no Tank Dell. I mean, Tank Dell was killing it. Was absolutely going berserk.
Newsome was getting dog walked.
True.
In the Texans game.
Oh, you mean the playoff game?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I thought you meant
dog walked.
Okay, yeah, that was
legit.
true.
Like,
he was getting
4 to 5 plays in a row.
Oh,
CJ Stroud legitimately just targeted where Greg Newsome was at.
Yeah, that was true. I think sometimes, however, I don't know.
I'll say the verdict's still out on Cedric Tillman. I'm not very high.
He needs to learn to run routes. I'm not high on David Bell. You could send him.
He did show a little bit better
XFL
at the end of the year.
I think, but
XFL,
the Rock merger. Shout out to the XFL for merging. But I think the problem that I have though is that we do have secondary talent. And Andrew Berry can move on. Like, he can draft really well. But I don't know. I'm feeling like I think you should just use pick up Greg Newsom's 5th-year option, and just let him play one more year and then just send him afterward. All right.
But here's the thing, though. If you wait to trade him, you got to pick up the tag, and then you got to pay him.
True.
So if you just trade him now before you have to sign the tag, and you get a receiver, you get picks to draft a receiver or draft whatever, and then sign one in free agency. Okay, here, hypothetically. Okay. Here, hear me out. Okay, hypothetically, we have the opportunity to trade Newsome, let's say, just for some picks. I'm not going to list the picks because I don't know what he'd go for. Let's just say it's a 2nd, a 4th, and a 6th next year. You say that's fair? Because, I mean, you got 1 year of Greg Newsome with the tag.
Right. Absolutely. Okay? Yeah.
So you got that. And then you go out in free agency and you get a T. Higgins, Michael Pittman, Mike Evans, somebody like that. Because now you have more cap space because you wouldn't have to pay Newsome. And you use one of them picks to draft a cornerback.
Here's the thing. This problem. I got to be realistic with my Cleveland Browns. We're the Cleveland Browns. Okay. Yeah. You don't just move on from somebody, get picks, and then pick up a Mike Evans. Or there's like you trade for a Devontae Adams. We don't do that. Like if we made it to the AFC Championship game with Deshaun Watson, then you can bring in free agent spots.
Well, you got to think though. I think he may learn from the mistake with Jed not moving on from him last year. You see, he came in, played. But hear me out.
Jed was good. Jed was good. He was much better.
Yeah, he played a little bit better before, but
before he got injured.
Going into this season, right now, you can capitalize off Greg Newsome's trade value because once that tag cap hit hits, his value is going to dip a little bit because teams, if they like
with that money
contracts,
yes,
they like that rookie contract.
But I guess here's my problem, and MC talked about the stupid celebrations, and I get it. They hate the great. Some people love the Greg Newsome celebration. Some people hate it. All we know is Jim Schwartz said, if you make a great defensive play, you better congratulate your boys. We know that.
Yeah.
That's why his antics and stuff went up this season. We all know that, first and foremost. Secondly, were we talking heavily about trading Greg Newsome before the Houston Texans game? Like, were we really all up in arms about trading Greg Newsome? It was when the playoff game and he got burnt 2 or 3 times, had a bad game. God forbid we have a bad game.
No, it's not even that though, Manny. It's like you're not going to pay 3 corners because you got Newsome. You've got Newsome. You're already paying Ward, and then next year it's just going to keep getting tougher and tougher because you got to pay JOK next year. And I would much rather have JOK over Greg Newsome.
No, I would much rather.
I'm just saying, man.
Keep JOK. You keep JOK. That last playoff game showed you. Not even one playoff game. And this is another thing. I'm not going to be hypocritical here. No. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That year, JOK had a great year. I'm not going to be hypocritical. I'm not going to talk about somebody for one game like everybody else is. Greg Newsome, listen, he's not as bad as that Houston Texans game, guys. In the comments on Twitter, on YouTube, he's not as bad as that Houston Texans game. So
but here's the thing, though, is when it comes down to it, who would you rather rock with for the next 3 to 4 years as your 1 and 2 corner? Would you rather rock with Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, or Denzel Ward and Martin Emerson Jr.?
Denzel Ward doesn't play. He doesn't
play. You're not getting out of that contract. You're not getting out of that contract anytime soon.
Sure. Fine. I'll take Denzel Ward for 4 games, and then I'll also take Martin Emerson. You got a good point. But at least Greg Newsome play. He gets hurt in practice, but at least Greg Newsome plays.
Yeah, but
you know what I mean?
Man.
Once, but all right. So okay. A couple of times in that Houston game. It was frustrating. It was, but you also want to know what was also frustrating? You want to know what also was frustrating? The fact that we couldn't put up points on offense. And Joe Flacco's throwing interceptions, throwing balls in the dirt. That was also frustrating. You know what I mean?
For sure. So but you're not going to hold Greg Newsome, or you're not going to hold Joe Flacco to the same standard as you would at Greg Newsome, who's been there all year.
Yes, that's true. And but at the same time, I think we went in there saying, hey, we really needed the defense to show up in the playoffs. But we already know the defense doesn't travel well. And I'm not saying that that's an excuse for Greg Newsome to go out there and look like Eli Apple. I'm not saying that. But at the same time, I'm trying to put 2 and 2 together, and I'm saying he had a bad game. And we're acting like he's the worst corner since Andrew Nandeo. Oh, I mean, you know what I mean? I like so for me, I just feel, can we pump the brakes a little bit and really think about it? Now, if you're telling me with a straight face, if you're Emerson all day, all right, fine, that's fine. Look, if you're telling me with a straight face that from Greg Newsome, with a Greg Newsome trade or whatever, we can bring in a guy like a Calvin Ridley. We can bring in a wide receiver who is comparable as a great number 3. We don't have to worry about putting Cedric Tillman in that role too early, or David Bell. Marquise Goodwin, we might bring you back because you had some flashes, but you don't have to rely on him. You know what I'm saying? So if that's the case, then fine, you move on from Greg Newsome. But you better get something for Greg Newsome that I can say as a fan, that was a good move. Because if people just ship him out of here, to make it feel good, that was the reason you lost with the Houston Texans, that's not the reason you lost with the Houston Texans. Myles Garrett did not show up. Was Myles Garrett there?
Myles has not been. Myles
Garrett was in College Station. That's where he was. He was in College Station, Watson. I didn't even see the man.
I haven't seen the man since week 12.
So before we blame the whole game on Greg Newsome, look at the whole other team.
We're not blaming the whole game on Newsome. We're blaming the whole game on the defense, man. None of them showed up except JOK. It's just like Newsome would he would celebrate a pass that was chucked 15 yards over the wide receiver's head and go nuts over it. And
that's annoying.
That's annoying. And then it's just like there's been games, and then his contract's coming up. He's a good player. I'm not gonna say he's not good. It's like what I'm saying is capitalize on his value while you can. Because right now, you go back to the stats, they got all the PFF graphics. It's talking about how great the trio of the Browns cornerbacks are. You go capitalize on some picks. You continue to bolster the defense with these picks, because if you continue to pay these guys, you won't be able to afford guys down the road.
Right.
So if you trade the guys that you're going to pay possibly $12 to $15 million, now you can pay other guys instead of having to pay all of them together. Okay, try to imagine this. You'd be paying Myles Garrett, JOK, Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, and then trying to fill the other 7 starters on the defense.
That's difficult.
Right there is probably $70 to $80 million just in those 4 spots if you don't trade one of them. Right.
So, that's difficult. That's difficult. And especially and I think people on defense free agents on defense might want to sign with the Browns if they're getting they don't need a substantial amount of money, like when they didn't know anything about the Browns, but they know the Browns defense. They know they were pretty good last year. So they might give the Browns a little bit of a discount. So to your point, if it's purely financial, I'll trust Andrew Berry if he moves on from Greg Newsome. I will. But acting like you should do it solely because, and I know you're not saying this. I'm not saying you. Yeah. I'm not saying you. But I'm saying individuals. Solely because Cameron Mitchell showed some flashes. And Martin Emerson's fantastic. I love Martin Emerson. But we all know Martin Emerson's quarterback number 2, maybe quarterback number 3, quarterback number 2 at best. So it's like I give a little cause to pause when I'm just saying move straight on from Greg Newsome, but I understand the financial aspect. I want to say that that's there and it's a concern.
What about here's another hypothetical to fill your void of a cornerback. I mean, you'd be paying this dude just a tad bit, probably not as much as you would Newsome, because Newsome's still what, 25?
Yeah.
So he's not even really hit his prime yet. So you could sell that. You could go out in free agency and get Kenny Moore, who's like 29, who's pretty solid.
You could
do like a 3-year contract. Do it kind of back into like a Juan Thornhill.
You could. Is the Juan Thornhill coming back?
Yeah, he's under contract for 2 more years.
For 2 more years, right? Or I thought he was for 1 more 2. So I can see that. I like Kenny Moore. I do. Some of these free agents, though, instead of being hole fillers, I think it depends on how you want to proceed next season. I think this season we saw our team was doing really well. We saw what this division looks like. We saw how we perform in the division. But at the same time, we did really well. But it's like, if you really sit back and we're going to ask ourselves this question during the offseason, did the Browns really did the Cleveland Browns really perform well? Like the people that we had out there, I mean, we had a really good record. We made the playoffs, but it's like we did it without a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
yeah,
you still have the question. I know it's dumb. People might make fun of it, but you still have the question as the Cleveland Browns. We need to be able to do it with our full roster, right? I want to see what this full roster. So before you go out there and you spend money on older guys like your Kenny Moore, to answer your question, you have to think and look at what your expectations for next season is. And I think next season, the reason why you should go out and get a Kenny Moore or spend some money is because next season you really can win the division. I think Pittsburgh they look at this year like, man, this is the last. This season was the last one because Mason Rudolph came in there and saved their butts. They have a quarterback conundrum on their hands. Baltimore is looking around like, we did everything we possibly could this year and we still fell short. So
dude, let's talk about that for a second. Dude, did you see that it went over how many times they've ran the ball in each game this year up to that game? You know how many times they ran the ball, like actually ran the ball, not Lamar taking off and running?
How many?
6.
6? Well, they had all those running back injuries. They had, I mean, any running back that signed for the Baltimore Ravens was injured. Like, I feel like you could anybody. As soon as you signed the contract and you said I'm playing running back, you're injured. So and so they had a lot of running backs that were out. So I can understand their hesitation with running the football, but you're right. They have to figure out what they're going to do because I don't know if Beckham's going to be back. Zay Flowers looks great.
Yeah, Zay Flowers is going to be top 5 receiver.
Yeah.
He'll be top 5. I just wish we could draft one of them, man.
Is it Keaton Mitchell? Was it Keaton Mitchell that was really good for them? Their running back?
Yeah.
Is his name Keaton Mitchell? He was amazing for them. He was amazing. Went down with the ACL, but he was amazing for them. Super fast.
Yeah, and MC just brought up a huge point. He said, with the healthy roster, we'll win the division. We will win this division. Like, honestly, I really do think, like, if we had a healthy roster, bro, you can add about 2 to 3 more wins on that.
Absolutely.
I think we go on that when we lost those 2 in a row. Like when we lost the Denver game, we had Watson in there. We're winning that.
Yeah.
I think when we got to LA, I think we're winning that one too with Watson. And if we had Chubb in both of those two, because like even if they're shutting down, like that's hard to stop that duo.
Come on, if we had Nick Chubb, if we had Deshaun Watson, I literally got goosebumps. If we had that offensive line with Jed and DeJuan Jones showing up on the right, I mean, no offense to Jack Conklin, but DeJuan Jones, a right tackle, you know what I mean? This team looks so much different.
Bro, I think, everybody usually talks about the quarterback. Like, the battle's there. We've got a battle at freaking right tackle, man. Because you got Jack Conklin, you've got all that money invested. You can't cut him. Because next year, if you cut him.
Wasn't there an injury incentive though for Jack Conklin? Didn't he not make the injury incentive?
I'm not.
We got to look. I wish we had Jake on. We got to look that up because there was an injury incentive. I remember in his contract. I think he had to play 11 games or 80. Like I think he had to play.
So
70% of the snaps or 11 games.
He got like 13 mil last year though.
Okay, I don't remember. I know there was an incentive attached because of the injury concern, and I don't believe he hit it.
But the dead cap. If we drop him this year, is $21,938,000.
And unless you picked up Jed's fifth-year option. Unless you slide Dwalin Jones over to left and then you move on from Jed.
Yeah, that's the tough part, man. It's just like you really want to watch Dwalin Jones because Dwalin Jones, I mean, you go back, watch the Pittsburgh game, man. Like he was shutting down TJ.
Dwalin Jones is if you have a neutralization factor for TJ Watt,
See, the cap hit, the differential in cap hit for if you get rid of Jed is drastically different, though.
Okay.
Right now, dead cap is 16 mil, but the cap hit's 14. So you would technically lose. If I'm reading this right, you would lose $2 million if you got rid of him. So you'd have to eat that. But if you did,
which you probably have no. I mean, they really set that up so that it's still a rookie contract.
No, but this year is going to be the 5th-year option, so he's getting paid like $14 million.
Yeah, the average of all the left tackles. But I think. By the way, we have to talk about Jakeem Grant because I don't even like going all the way back to Jakeem Grant if he was healthy too. We don't know what we have in a punt return with Jakeem Grant. But I don't even know if he's back in the team. But
nah, he's not back. He's not back.
Unfortunately, I don't. If he's back,
it's going to be super cheap if he's back.
Super cheap. But
like everybody keeps talking about how we're just in this cap dungeon, man. And it's just like if Andrew Berry is going to do what he did last year, he opened up like $40 million in cap with just a snap of a finger right before free agency started. And that's what gets me so excited.
Yeah.
Like this year, they're already going to restructure Watson's contract because he's going to get that money anyways. Like if you restructure, you still get the money. It just doesn't show on the cap this year. Right. And I say him, Miles restructure. I could see Joe Bitonio restructuring. I could see Wyatt Taylor restructuring. Possibly even Conklin. He might do like a little team friendly like restructure, and if he finds another place he wants to go,
then go ahead. We have to seriously consider what our goal. First and foremost, you have to understand what your goal is next season.
Yeah.
And if you're with a healthy Browns roster, I think we can safely say we would have either won the division or made some noise. Now it's hard to say won the division because Baltimore was on a absolute tear. They were winning all the games that we thought they were going to lose. So it was hard to tell. But what were we going to say?
No, I just.
Oh no, yeah. So yeah. So we have to look at what our objective is. So reasonably so, I think we could have made some noise in the playoff with a healthy roster. Now, if that's the case, I think that everyone should buy in next season. We have to do something with that training staff. I'm so sorry. Somebody has to be fired because everybody was,
See, here's the thing, too. Also, like, I feel like this approach they're taking already, I think they're going all in. I think because how many moves have you saw on the offensive side of the ball, like coaching staff-wise? How many times have you seen guys fired from the Browns offense?
Stump Mitchell.
How many times have you seen
gone? It's just
like Alex Van Pelt's gone, Stump Mitchell's gone. I can't remember the tight end coach's name. He's gone.
Yeah.
But they're bringing all these dudes in. They've got qualifications. Like Ken Dorsey. Pretty good at Buffalo. Give or take how you view him.
Yeah.
Deuce Staley, Tommy Rees. He's on the rise. Bama was almost in the national championship, so they got beat by Michigan.
Right, but they're not playing any games, and I think they're looking at Deshaun. And for people who think that Deshaun doesn't want to play, they're looking at Deshaun and saying, "Hey, we really need you to be what we like. This is the year, right?" And you were showing flashes. We're getting it back. But now the training wheels are off. Like you know, where the rust is on. You were 5-1 when you were here, regardless. You know, I know quarterback wins not a quarterback stat. People argue that all day. But if you're a trash quarterback, you're not going to be 5-1 at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So no offense, but it's just like you're not going to be. Joe Flacco wasn't a trash quarterback when he was 4-1 or 4-0 here. So it's like he was doing well. You were putting up numbers. So I think with a healthy offensive line and a healthy Nick Chubb, we're and even Deshaun Watson said when he was talking about T. Higgins, he kind of let it slip inadvertently. They're throwing the ball next year, right? I mean, they're really throwing the ball next year. Not a lot of checking.
And I think that's why they hired Ken Dorsey, because you go back and look at Buffalo's offense. I mean, they throw the ball.
They throw the freaking football. They throw the football in Buffalo.
And that was the thing, though, with Buffalo's offense last year. You're just like, man, if they had a running back, man, they'd be good. Like,
that's why they signed James Cook.
Yeah, and then they got James Cook. And, I mean, he was just a rookie last year, and then they never really got it going with him this year until, I mean, closer to the end of the year. We finally got it going. But, I mean, you had a Nick Chubb into that mix.
Oh, man.
And I'm telling you, man, I really, like, with these moves, I'm thinking – that Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski, they're putting their balls on the table, and they're going to be like, let's win the whole thing, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And you know what? And the craziest thing is we're watching the NFC. We're playing the NFC East again. You know, and that division, that whole division was looking scary, if you ask me, during week 9, week 10. Yeah. They were looking super scary. But now they're looking like, you know, you're the Commanders not really concerned about. New York Giants, they are the New York Giants. They had a nice little stint there with Tommy DeVito, but they got to figure it out. You know, Jerry Jones is going to fire everybody in Dallas. They are sick and tired of just, you know what I mean? One that is so hilarious.
I mean, Dak will throw 500 yards, but he'll also throw like 4 picks.
Exactly. They need to find a way to get over the hump in the playoffs. I'm not really scared about them. And Philadelphia, they might fire Nick Sirianni.
Oh yeah, Sirianni. If he doesn't get to at least the NFC Championship next year, he's gone.
He's gone. So I feel like you're looking at, even I hate to play a schedule game this early, but we have an opportunity. And Cincinnati with Joe Burrow getting healthy, we're not scared of Joe Burrow if he's healthy. Like I mean, we do what we do. We love Joe Burrow. Around these parts, but it's just like I'm not concerned. We love to play him, So we
love to play him, yes, for sure. But you know, like even this year, I think going into free agency, I think like when you think about it, you beat 2 of the 4 remaining teams.
Yeah,
one of the teams you beat without your starting quarterback, without your starting running back.
Yeah,
has the potential to win a Super Bowl.
Yes.
And that's insane. P.J. Walker won a game for the Cleveland Browns versus his 49ers team. That is in the Super Bowl.
That is
I still can't, like, I mean, that's just like, when we won that game, I was just like going nuts because like that was a game like we shouldn't have won. Like going into that game, I was like, we might get beat by 30. Like,
we might get beat by 30. And granted, even if we lost, because even if they made that field goal, let's pretend they made that field goal. We still kept it extremely close with P.J. Walker. You know what I'm saying? Throwing 2 picks. We were still fine. So it's like we still held Brock Purdy, and all their players were playing. Now they didn't play the full game because they got injured when they were playing, but all of them were there. You know, so it's like I'm looking at it and saying, hey, it was in San Fran, no less. So if you ask me, that shows me a test of what we could have been. Fully healthy. I mean, we could have done some more damage. So I don't know. I'm thinking the question that most Browns fans, one of the last questions I'm going to ask you here, KFC, is the question that a lot of Browns fans asked is when they watched after that game versus Kansas City and they beat Baltimore. Can the Cleveland Browns get on the level of a Kansas City Chiefs? Now, I'm not saying you got to be a dynasty. Well, I'm not saying you got to go out there and win Super Bowls.
Here's the thing, though. It's Kansas City is technically in an off year. The one thing that Kansas City has that every other team doesn't have is they have Patrick Mahomes.
You're so right, man.
It's like it's legitimately.
That's the craziest thing to think.
You remember that commercial with Tom Brady handing the rings off to Baker? They need to go in and edit that, like CGI, do a little AI, a little edit, and put Patrick Mahomes' face on that, because that's what happened. Patrick Mahomes was sitting there last year. Tom Brady's last year, he just went, "Here you go, my son. Boom,
yes,
it's in your hands now." And then he just.
You know what's crazy? I just want to touch on the one thing you just said. Last year was an off year. Was an off year last year, because if you degraded from Tyreek Hill, and then what? You won the Super Bowl, and then the beginning of this year,
13-4 or something like that.
Yeah, right.
And they had the whole road like in a home. This year, they finished like
this year,
5th seed.
Yes, this year. Yes, this year. You look at this year. No, they won. They won their division. They won their division.
Oh yeah, that is right.
They won their division.
There were 3.
They were the 3.
Yeah.
So, but then you look at this year. The beginning half of the season, everybody was like, "Oh, see, now there's the Tyreek Hill there. That's the Tyreek Hill effect. Now you're missing it. All the wide receivers dropping the ball, and they weren't winning games. They were losing games and everything. And then all of a sudden they win. They come back. They win the division. This year was an off year." Right? I mean, you really weren't supposed to make the playoffs. And now here they come in the Super Bowl, playoffs on the road, and they're just winning football games left and right. That's the scariest part. So to your point, KFC, are the Kansas City Chiefs beatable? I think they are. You just have to find a way to beat Patrick Mahomes. And once Travis Kelce wins this ring, I believe he will retire. And the only way he'll come out of rock into sunset, winning a Super Bowl and being with Taylor Swift, the only way he's going to come back is be a Rob Gronkowski-esque and come back for the Chiefs if they go to the playoffs. So I think next year.
Okay. I know this is just the fan in me talking.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you.
Oh, no. You're going to say what I think you're going
to. The dude loves Cleveland.
No.
It was his dream. He literally said he cried when the Browns passed on him in the draft.
No.
Just not even it's not even like prime Kelce. This is he wins another few. It's just like one of them, I get to wear the jersey. I'm going to ride off into the sunset and say I got to play for my favorite team growing up. One of them shebangs. No. I could see it.
It'll be
like when he's too old to produce big numbers. It's gonna be like a Zach Ertz top, that type of Travis Kelce.
But here's the thing: the only reason, if they win the Super Bowl, he's not coming to Cleveland next year because they play the Chiefs next year, and I don't think he's going to do that. I think he might take a year off, then come back to Cleveland, maybe. Number one, number two, the only reason he plays for Cleveland next year is if Cleveland makes it to the playoffs, and then he signs with Cleveland. He retires and signs with Cleveland, right? So I can see that, but what I can't see is them going to Super Bowl or anything. And in the offseason, he's like, I want to go to Cleveland. Because I don't know his contract or anything, but you're right. I think we can get a dusty old Travis Kelce, but he would only come to Cleveland if Cleveland's good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I'm just saying, it's going to be one of them, the only reason he would come is if the money's right and they're just like, let's just do this, a little Cinderella story. You get to play for your hometown team and ride off into the sunset and go play or go into the Hall of Fame, because he's already a Hall of Fame tight end. If he's not the best, he's number 2. I think it really went from Gronk and Brady to Patty and Kelce.
We will be looking for a tight end though, because Harrison Bryant is poop. He's just a blocker, bro.
Hey man, he showed up a little bit in that playoff game though. He was making some catches.
He did. He made some catches. You know what I mean?
But I don't think that was enough. I don't think that's enough to save that job for him. So, but
we low-key needed Amari Cooper in that playoff game, by the way. So,
yeah, Brown's Therapy just brought up a good point. He said, "Don't forget the new D-line coach we just got, Jaquez Sirette." I can't pronounce it, man. It's just it's too big of a name. Too many syllables. I can't be saying that stuff.
we needed some more wisdom on the defensive line, because I think you can't just have. We need something interior. We need something to create more pressure, especially on on like especially on away games. I mean, home games we can create all the pressure because the crowd noise is important as well.
Yeah.
But I think we needed some more wisdom on the defensive line. It's just weird to me how we don't show up. It's just weird.
Yeah.
It's just weird. Starting with Myles Garrett.
Yeah, that's the thing is, like, I don't think we've had a D-line coach that can get the best out of him. Like, I don't think we've saw Myles Garrett play his best football yet. And that's the scary thing is, like, he's been in contention for Defensive Player of the Year for the last 3 seasons. And it's just like from start to finish, it's not the same.
I'm gonna say I don't know if I want him to win Defensive Player of the Year just because I want a Cleveland Brown to be noticed and put on recognition. But I almost feel like if you're a Sixers fan and then Joel Embiid won MVP when it clearly should have been Nikola Jokic, and then Joel Embiid just got it out of like not sympathy, but it's like, all right, fine, we'll give it to you. You know what I mean? Because it can't be back to back to back. Like I feel like with Myles Garrett is like that's why I feel, because I know Myles Garrett as a fan. I know him, and he's not consistent enough for me. I hate it because I love the block field goals. I love the crossovers. I love all these cool flashes. But it's in prime time. Can you please be consistent? You're in the playoffs, and you show me nothing. Nothing.
Well, if you watched a little bit of that Texans game, where did we get beat at most of the game?
Well,
defensive line. Their defensive line was getting so much pressure on Joe Flacco.
I'm sorry. Defense. Yeah.
Their defensive, the Texans' defensive line was getting him to Joe Flacco. I mean, they were killing us there.
Right.
And he was Houston Texans defensive line coach.
True.
And we got him.
True. I mean, that's a good point. That's a good point.
And like, if you go, and Mac actually tweeted something about Jared Greenlaw's stats before him and after. Greenlaw's stats went crazy, man. Like comparatively, like his first 2 years without him and his last 2 years with him.
Yeah.
And I mean, when you
that's helpful.
And when you got a top 3 defensive player in your hands now, bro, that might be scary.
You better listen. I understand. I get it. But I mean, and it will be scary. And I don't mean to be pessimistic, but I mean, you might get it.
I get it. I get it though, because Myles is just like he played his best Sasquatch the last 6 weeks of the year. Man, he just went full Bigfoot.
I'm not even, and I hate to bring this up at the end of the show and create havoc, but my wife being a Steelers fan, and I watch all the Steelers games. I freaking hate TJ Watt because he's always there. He's always consistent. I mean, this man
I wish that, like, I mean, I get it. TJ Watt's a phenomenal player. But I wish Myles would get them sacks like he does. Like, there's so many sacks that he gets because the quarterback will roll right into him. And I'm just like, like, why can't you do that, Myles? Like, why can't you, like?
And people get upset because they're like, all right, I get it. I get it. Myles Garrett's on the Cleveland Browns, so we want to defend him. I get that. I understand. I mean, it's splitting hairs when you talk about Myles and TJ. I get that. But at the same time, as I'm watching those games when I'm with my wife and I have to watch the Steelers game, I'm looking at TJ Watt and I'm like, I know what happens. I know what happens when he's on the field. I know he's doing something. And I hate to do this. But if TJ Watt were to play in that Steelers playoff game, I guarantee you he would have got something. He would have got a sack or something. A 0.5, a half a sack or something.
Like, the one thing I get it. He is a Cleveland Brown. I love having Myles Garrett on my team. Dude's still a phenomenal player. He just didn't show up the last few weeks of the season. I'm not going to let that slide much because if you go watch that hop-up video that he said before the game, bro, I'm sorry. That did not get me hopped at all. Like, he's got to get something going where he can walk in the locker room and get people ready to go fight.
Get people going. Your Myles, which I won't be. I'm not trying to compare him to TJ Watt again, but TJ Watt is he's not that type of guy either. I mean, they're both pretty much quiet guys.
Yeah, but TJ could get some guys going though. Like TJ can get some guys hot.
That's more of a Cam Hayward, Alex Highsmith kind of.
See, the thing is though, like Myles Garrett is that dude. Like with the Pittsburgh Steelers, you have Cam Hayward, who's been there longer than him. So I mean, he's been there. He knows what it is to be a Steeler.
Right.
Myles Garrett's been one of our longest tenured Cleveland Browns right now.
Right.
He should be able to go in there like I know his personality is probably not the same as like a T. Sizzle or a Ray Lewis type, but if he had that motor where he could get people just ready to go out for blood,
different. It'd be so different.
I feel like he has like a sensitive side to him, man. It's just like
he does. There's nothing wrong with that, but he does.
But like the quarterback, like you should be able to flip that switch once it's game time.
Yeah.
Like MC just brought up a huge point. He said that Myles Garrett doesn't have that killer instinct. See, I feel like he has a clutch instinct.
Yeah, he has a clutch instinct.
He doesn't have that killer to like flip
to keep it going every week.
Bro, I thought he finally flipped that switch in the Colts game.
Yeah, bro, the Colts game was the one where I was like, that's the one. That's the Myles Garrett that I want to defend 24/7. Because I was like, no, that is Defensive Player of the Year. The safeties, the blocks, getting back, people follow him around. That's Defensive Player of the Year. But then I'm like, not saying you got to do that every game because that's ridiculous. That's like J.J. Watt type of stuff back in the day. But I mean, man, can you give me some consistency? The fall off is crazy. Got me with a vein in my middle of my neck on the social media websites trying to defend you against Yinzers, against the Steelers fans, when I know good and well TJ Watt would show up consistently.
Facts, DM, they are fire. And
thank you so much.
It's just like I feel like Myles was getting pressure still, but it's just like he couldn't finish it out, if that makes sense.
Yeah. He was. CJ Stroud was getting the ball off quick, though.
It felt like teams were kind of keying in. Like they were like, okay, you've got about 3 seconds, 2 to 3 seconds before Myles Garrett's going to bust through that line. You've got to get the ball out. Yeah. And like, I feel like it's the same thing every year. Like, I mean, I get it. Z's probably been one of our better opposite side of Myles defensive ends. But it's like, I don't know. It's like once Mo Hurst, like I know Mo Hurst was not like a top guy, like a top tier guy on their defensive line. But it's like once those injuries on the D line started piling up a little bit, it's like Myles wasn't able to get there. And I mean, to the extent, like we don't know how serious that shoulder was, but if you're still out there, you're expected to still dominate.
Right. Exactly. So
that's how I look at it.
There's nothing. Opposing fans should not be able to post your stats at the end of the game and show that there's a bunch of zeros for everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard for me to defend and say the whole game he was doubled. You don't think people are doubling TJ Watt? Like beyond, like tied the sack record the year before. You don't think people are doubling him? I'm sick and tired of giving excuses. Look, all right, that's not how I want to end the show. That's not how I want to end it. I want to talk about the Browns. I love the Browns. I do.
Yeah.
But,
okay, we'll end it on a positive note.
Yeah.
We'll end it on a positive note. We'll talk what you like to talk about in wide receivers.
Yeah.
Because if you've noticed over the past 4 seasons with Andrew Berry, when there's a major hole to be fixed, he fixes it. He finds out what, like last year, the number one hole on our defense, defensive line. Defensive line showed out most of the year.
Yeah.
I mean, you had Okoronkwo, Big Z, Mo Hurst, Dalvin Tomlinson. Like, I mean, he revamped that whole defensive line.
Yes, he did.
You know, didn't look so good in the playoffs. But, I mean, comparatively to the year before, that defensive line was night and day. I mean, going from Tavon Bryant and Jordan Elliott to Dalvin Tomlinson, Shelby Harris, Mo Hurst, drastic difference. So, I mean, and the number one thing this year, wide receivers. So, I think Andrew Berry's got something up his sleeve, so, man.
I think so, too. I think there's some notable free agents out there that I would like to get my hands on. I mean, Obviously, Mike Evans is out there, and everybody and their mama in Cleveland would love to have Mike Evans.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of people we would like to have free agency. We couldn't get him. Okay. So let me just skip on from Mike Evans. I was wrong about OBJ. I'm never going to say his name ever again. I don't. But the 13 jersey that I have in there, I turned into a Corey Bojorquez jersey. So I'm not even really concerned about it too much. Yeah. I would like myself to see a Calvin Ridley. I know Calvin Ridley's 29. I would like to see a Marquise Hollywood Brown, bring another Hollywood back to Cleveland. I would like to see that. There's Curtis Samuel's a little old, but I would love to see Marquise Hollywood Brown in Cleveland. I really would. I know he's an ex-Raven. I would love to see him. I don't know if the Cardinals are going to do anything for Kyler Murray, to be honest with you. If they can get out of that contract and move on from him, they might want to blow that whole thing up anyway.
Well, I mean, they've got a top 2 pick.
Right. If they can get themselves a Marvin Harrison, they might move right on. From him.
They might be 4.
I think it's 4. We got to look that up. DJ Shark is also available as well. So I
feel like we've talked about him every year.
Every single year we talk about DJ Shark. Every year. And we just never get him. So I'm just not going to say his name this year.
Yeah, I'm not even going to mention it. That was the first time. I remember the first year we did the podcast. That was one of the names we were like pounding on the table for. We got to get him, man. We got to get him.
The entire LaVisca Chenault's another one, right? I mean, we were talking about him so much. And another guy, T. Higgins, that's another pipe dream. So I don't know. Michael Pittman Jr., he's out there as well. There's some good wide receivers that can make this wide receiver core really dangerous. And I think we need to steal that away from Cincinnati and get a nice triple-headed monster back there. And just with a loan back of Nick Chubb and a healthy offensive line, that's a scary offense. It's a scary offense, no way which way you chop it up. So need more from Cedric Tillman, though.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Man, before we end this, I've just got to say, once the combine hits, that's when you'll find out, like, these guys like Amari Cooper. You remember that trade? You remember that trade?
Oh, yeah.
So, like, those type of deals, that's when they start getting that's when they start happening. It's like what Noah said. So, like, and I mean, Amari Cooper really wasn't even a name that was getting mentioned much. Like, I mean, there was here
and there,
and then the rumors started dropping. I'm like, Dallas is going to move on. The Browns are interested, and they're like, "Oh, the Browns ain't gonna."
Yeah, I was like, "Bro, the Browns aren't getting
that." Because, like, I mean, the notion was that it was going to cost him a 2nd-round pick.
Yeah,
so
fleeced them.
So, yeah, for a 5th. For a 5th. So hopefully we can get one of them deals again with some team that just doesn't want their receiver.
Right.
So, but I'm excited for this offseason. I can't wait till we get closer to the draft and free agency. And, the Senior Bowl is, I think, this weekend. So you'll get to see a little bit of the top prospects that are a little bit older, their senior class, going into the draft. So be exciting. Finally get your first peek at prospects. So things are finally starting to heat up. But as always, go Browns.
Go Browns, baby.